Hey, deserving listeners, this is Chapter 3 in my Attachment Theory Deep Dive. In this episode, the main focus that I'm going to focus on is how do we use attachment theory to improve our lives? This is the most important thing to any good psychological theory, any good psychotherapy theory. I mean, it helps us to understand people. It's a good model for conceptualizing people, but really the only reason why we're even conceptualizing people or ourselves or other people's experience is because we're trying to make positive change. We're trying to help. We're trying to help others. We're trying to help ourselves. We're trying to help our relationships. And so this episode is about that. It's about the clinical side and also the personal side to that. I'm also going to talk about how I use attachment theory to help my students and my supervisees, not just my clients and not just myself. We're also, going to talk about what did Bowlby recommend we do with this theory to help other people, because late in Bowlby's career, he had some very important things to say about how we can use his theory to help other people. Also, how should we use attachment theory with our spouses or our children? Well, actually, those might be another chapter entirely. I'm not quite sure, but eventually I'll get to that. I've said this in other chapters, but it bears repeating, is that I use attachment theory every day. I use it with my clients, with my students, my supervisees, my wife, myself, my cat, my dog. I use it in all those areas every day. I'm thinking about it all the time. It's useful in so many different areas. It helps me to be a better person. It helps me to make a positive difference in the world, which is my humble mission in life. So this chapter is about how to use attachment theory, how to use it to affect change in yourself and in others. I'm going to provide a step-by-step process that I have found to be useful. Again, what did John Bowlby recommend we do? I'm going to provide research on the brain. I'm going to talk about the several different forms of therapy that actually use attachment theory formally, including my model. And I'm going to talk about the various presenting problems that lend themselves to using attachment-based therapies. This is going to be a long episode, several hours, so let's get into it. Welcome to the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. I'm really sorry to you non-patrons out there, but this episode is just for patrons of the podcast. All the chapters of my attachment theory deep dive are only available to patrons. So if you want access to this and the other chapters and the hundreds of other episodes that we've made along these lines that are, premium episodes, you have to become a patron of the podcast by going to patreon.com. That's patreon.com. Someone just emailed me the other day and was like, so your episode recently just stopped suddenly. It just, like 2 minutes in, it just ended. And I don't know what's going on. And I'm like, it's because you need to be a patron of the podcast. So do that now. When you become a patron, I'll send you instructions on how to access this episode and the hundreds of other episodes that are really our best episodes. So do so now.